Okay. Looks like it is about to go live. Okay, YouTube. We are live. And this time it is for real. We are past the test stages. Um, I didn't think it would be this much of a headache to do a live stream. Um, I thought you could just simply go to the YouTube page, hit stream now, and that's that. But then I see all this, live stream checklist with setup encoding software, ad stream info, all this crap. So I went and downloaded, I think it's called Wirecast Play, which is some free encoder software. And I couldn't get that to work for shit. I did several test streams, no sound. And then since it was a free software, it was putting watermarks on there, and then you would hear a voiceover letting you know that this is a demo, whatever. So I got to give a shout out to Xbox Vidiot because I contacted him and he recommended Relive from AMD or OBS for encoder software. So shout out to him. I was able to finally get this thing up and going. So but yeah, it was a little bit of a headache. And then this encoder software, I assumed that it would automatically recognize what I'm using as a microphone, but I didn't know, like, I had to go into the settings and physically choose which device I'm going to use. I thought it would automatically just, do it for me, but we finally got it up and running. We are finally live. Thank you for checking it out. I appreciate it. While we're at it, please give this stream a like, help spread it out to a wider audience. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you can stay up to date whenever I put out content. And so also, before we get into some of the subjects that I want to talk about, I want to give a shout out to King Thrash. As you all know, he's my favorite YouTuber, and when I reached out to him and told him I wanted to start a YouTube channel, he said, "Go ahead, I'll be your biggest supporter." And he came through in flying colors. Not only did he support me, he helped me fine tune my videos. I was using the PlayStation Share Factory to make my videos, and I was just using the basic features, but he was the one that got with me in a voice chat and walked me through how to use a lot of the features. So a lot of my videos that you see now is thanks to him walking me through how to use the advanced features. So shout out to King Thrash. I also want to thank him for giving me a seat at the round table. I really do enjoy the round table podcast that we do on Tuesday nights. Unfortunately, I won't be able to join for a while because I just started a job. Just got me working second shift. So in fact, I got to be at work in a couple of hours. So as far as this podcast live stream goes, I think it'll maybe we go about an hour. It depends on how deep I get into these subjects. So let me see. I listed some subjects that I wanted to talk about because I wouldn't have been able to remember them all. So give me a second. Okay, so the gaming news is kind of weird because at times there's no news, and then out of nowhere it's boom, there's news everywhere, and then it's just not enough hours in the day to cover all this stuff. And to make individual videos about them, you know, I really do like making the videos, but you know, the process of you know, coming up with a topic, coming up with gameplay, music, scripting, whatever it is I'm going to talk about, and then uploading the video, that process can take, you know, 1 to 3 hours for just a 10-minute video. So, in all the subjects that's been happening over the past week, I mean, I would be, you know, I would be chained to um, the software making videos. So, I think I finally come to a point where I got to do a live stream here and there, so I can try to knock them all out at once. So, I don't have a set time when I'm going to do these live streams. But moving forward, I would like to try to do these live streams Sunday night at about 8 o'clock, and then just do a wrap up of all the past week's news. And then as I get better at these live streams, eventually I will ask some people to, you know, come in. You know, I'll ask, you know, for some guests, you know, to come on board, you know, and do some streams with me. But, you know, first things first, you know, I got to get my feet wet, since this is you know, since I'm losing my virginity at these live streams, if you want to put it that way. So let's get into these topics that I want to talk about. And the first topic that I want to talk about is the one that has me the most upset. And as everybody know by now, last week in Florida, there was a shooting where some coward went up into a school and shot the school up, and I believe he killed 17 people. And unfortunately, this is getting to be commonplace. I mean, it's like, it's starting to happen so much. It's almost like, you know, when is the next one going to happen? And so what really got me pissed off about this subject was, for starters, you have our dumbass president. Well, he ain't my president, but you have this dumbass dude, Trump, who believes he's the president, talking about that we need to put more guns in school, you know, give teachers guns and shit like that to try to combat these nuts walking up in there. So, I mean, that has to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. I mean, if a kid kicks in a door and starts shooting up a classroom, you really think a teacher's gonna have time to go to his gun cabinet, pull out his keys, and take that padlock off, you know, take the safety off of his rifle, put a clip in, and then return fire to this kid that just walked in and shot up the whole classroom? If the teacher don't get killed himself by the time he returns fire, half that classroom is dead. I mean, it is just unimaginable how stupid Trump is, you know, saying some shit like that. It's just unbelievable. I mean, you know, that election had to be rigged. I mean, there's just no way that an imbecile like this can preside over the country. So, but what really, another thing that got me heated about this situation, shortly after the shooting took place, I saw two, maybe three videos. You know, one video I saw, a kid was with, he had to be about a 14-year-old kid. He was with a couple of adults, and the adults were, you know, shooting hidden video to make a point. So they go into a store, and the kid tries to buy some cigarettes. And they asked him, "You have your ID?" And he said, "No." And she said, "I'm sorry, I can't sell you any cigarettes." So they go to another store, and he attempts to buy some beer. And again, he was ID'd. They asked him if he had his ID, and and they told him, no, we can't sell you any alcohol or beer. He goes to another store and tries to buy a lottery ticket. And again, he was denied because he didn't have he didn't have any kind of identification and he was underage. But he goes to a gun show and bought a shotgun, and the gun seller, holds the gun up and, was showing it to him like, yeah, that's a real nice weapon for you. That's a real nice gun. And he walked right out of there with a gun. I was flabbergasted. That's mind boggling. And so that's the big problem right there. In my opinion, is keeping the guns out of the hands of these young punks. And so a kid can't, he can't buy lottery tickets. He can't buy beer. He can't buy cigarettes, but he can buy a gun. An instrument that is made with the intention of eliminating a target. So that's unbelievable. And the other topic, the other video that I saw that really had me heated is lately with these school shootings, it's I really hate to go there, but I think it's got to be, I have to say this to make my point, that a lot of these mass shootings, school shootings, postal shootings, theater shootings, first of all, in most cases, the shooter is a young white male. And in just about every case, it's always mental illness is always the excuse. But, it's like with everybody else, if it had been, a black person or a Mexican or something like that would have shot these schools up, they would have been screaming gang violence and shit like that. And, pointing towards, this is what their culture does. This is what what they produce, and then the other thing about these shooters is they're cowards, because they go to a place where there's a bunch of people where they are unarmed, and these people are not going to shoot back. And that was, that brings me to this video that I saw. I saw a video where a sheriff blamed video games and blamed the gang culture for these kids shooting up schools. And to me, that's him. To me, the way I took that was that he was reflecting it, that, these young males, these young American males, are shooting up these schools. They seem to be the biggest problem to America. You want to, put up a wall to keep Mexicans out, and you want to kick Muslims out of the country. And to me, the biggest threat to America seems to be Americans. It's terrorism. It's domestic terrorism. And so you got this idiot sheriff blaming video games and blaming the gang culture. So first of all, let's talk about the gang culture for a second. If somebody is influenced by the gang culture or whatever it is they're influenced by, they follow that trend. They act out in that manner. So if somebody is influenced by gangs, they're going to behave as if they're in a gang. They're going to go into an area where the enemy is at and take out an enemy. And as far as gangs goes, it usually stays between them. They don't shoot random people. Sure, people get caught in the crossfire or something like that, but for the most part, the shootings stay between them. Whereas these cowards shooting up schools are shooting random people where a lot of people are gathered, and these people don't have guns. So that's what makes them the biggest cowards. So these kids that are shooting up, these schools are not, they're not from a gang culture, and they're not inspired by the gang culture. Because if they were, they would be going into these fucked up ass, neighborhoods, like somewhere like in Detroit or Chicago or something like that, and they would engage in a shootout with some of the gangs over there. So this young white kid don't look like he got an ounce of gang in him. I highly doubt that this kid was motivated by the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings, or whoever to go shoot up a school. If he would have been motivated by one of those gangs, he would have went and, went after one of those gangs and tried to take out one of their generals or something like that. And so it just like that just burned me up that sheriff tried to deflect that and swing it back in a different direction, and try to blame it on the gang culture and shit like that. So, and again, the way I took it is, and I'm not trying to be racist, but the way I took it was that with each of these shootings, it's starting to get pointed out more and more that the shooter is a young white male. And that is starting to get louder and louder each time we find out about one of these shootings. And so that sheriff that I was referring to, I felt like he was like trying to deflect the blame off of young white males and shift it back into the direction of minorities. So like I said, activity in these low income neighborhoods are not inspiring these middle class, upper class kids to pull out an assault rifle, which their parents bought for them to go shoot up a school. I believe a lot of these kids that shoot up these schools are nerds, that probably got picked on in school, probably upset because a girl that they like is dating a high school quarterback, what have you. But one thing is for certain, they are cowards, and the other thing that kills me about this shit is that every time there's a shooting and people start talking about, gun control and tougher laws, tougher gun laws, gun owners start crying like they're the victims. Oh, they're going to take our guns away, and start crying like, somebody going to take their shit away from them. First of all, stop with that damn shit. The NRA has so many politicians in their pockets that guns are never, ever going to go away in America. It's just too much money in guns. It's never going to go away. But it kills me how they, gun owners, it doesn't even register to them that 17 people were killed in the shooting. That hasn't even registered to them. What matters to them is that they gonna lose, they worried about losing their guns, and they act like they're the victim. They act like they're the oppressed, like the world is out to get them. No, you are the majority because of the politicians that the NRA has in their pockets. So stop crying like somebody's trying to fuck your world up. So it's just like sometimes I get super heated, like really thinking about this shit. I mean, it's like this fucking country is just going like completely bananas. It's just like the crazy shit that's going on in this country is just getting more and more normal, and seems to be getting more and more accepted. I don't know. That's a subject I could go on all day, but I don't want to stay there all day. And so let's move on to the next subject. And that would be what I want to talk about is Konami and these microtransactions. So last week, Konami sent out review copies of this Metal Gear Survive, and it was pretty much useless because the game required an online connection, and I don't think that the servers weren't up and running yet. First of all, if you release a game where the game centers around people having to be constantly online, I would like to think that your servers should be ready to go weeks before the game is going to release. So when I heard about that these review copies went out, but nobody could play the game because they couldn't get, because the servers weren't up. That was already a big red flag right there. I was like, something is fishy as hell about this shit. And then it finally comes out. So as all of you know, with this Metal Gear Survive, first of all, they used the Metal Gear name to try to sell this game when I guess it's got nothing to do with Metal Gear. So that was, lie number one right there. And then turns out they put in the most, the most intrusive microtransactions that to date, where you have to pay to open up save slots. So, if I'm not gonna go too much into detail about that. There's people like Young, you can check out his video or something like that, because he gave a breakdown on these microtransactions. But generally speaking, to open up these save slots, this basically costs you $10 per slot to open up these save slots. And I guess to put together like a AI assault squad or something like that, you'll have to pay to add members on your team and stuff like that. So it's just this is absolutely nuts. And I'm really disappointed that Konami pulled something like that, because this shit that they pulled is something that I would have expected from an American company, because I think America is the greediest country on this planet. Everything about American products and services and shit like that revolve around money, and there's almost no, when it comes to American corporations, there's almost no boundaries to how low they'll go to get money out of people. So this shit that Konami pulled, this is something I would have expected from EA, from Activision, from Microsoft. So I was totally blown away by this. But excuse me, I had to get a quick drink there. I've come to the conclusion that there's several reasons why Konami did, pull something so bold and something so blatant. One is that, the game is trash and they know it. Another reason why I think they probably pulled that shit is with Hideo Kojima gone and no longer at Konami, that company's probably going into the shitter and is probably about to go bankrupt, close its doors or whatever. So this game could have been one last attempt to get, try to do a cash grab before they finally go out the door. Which that's the only thing I can think of for somebody to pull something so bold and so outrageous that, this, I'm guessing that, it's possible that the company's in big financial trouble or something like that. And like I said, they just taking one last shot at trying to get some money before they close their doors or something. But one thing about me is I do not have sympathy for companies and corporations who practice shady business tactics. I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. I mean, in fact, I'm the type of person that when a company pulls some bullshit and try to screw over the very consumer that keeps this company alive, I feel like, to me, a poetic ending would be to see this company go out of business. And now Konami just got added to that list. And so because of this outrageous bullshit that they just pulled, I would love to see them go out of business. Along with EA, along with Activision, and yeah, probably Microsoft. Because and Comcast too. Because I think those are some of the dirtiest companies in existence. So, you know, so I think, Konami's gonna get what's coming to them because they're not a huge company like EA or Microsoft. So I think they're gonna get what's coming to them. I think they basically signed their death certificate with this bullshit they just pulled. So I give it about another year, and hopefully they'll be done. The big question is when they finally do go under, will they just fade away and just disappear out of sight, or will they make a big announcement that they have to close the doors? Either way, I'd be glad to see them gone. Microsoft, I think they got way too much money to run out of business, but I do think they're gonna get what's coming to them in terms of sales. Their shady business practices and like a lot of stupid decisions that they made, I think that it's finally going to catch up to them because they already getting the shit beat out of them this generation. PlayStation's outselling them 2-1, and the Xbox is almost non-existent in places like Japan and shit like that. Microsoft, just they some hard-headed ass dudes, releasing 2 consoles this generation for $500, and there's a part of me that believes that when the Xbox 2 comes out, that I believe is going to come out in the end of 2019, early 2020. Being that this is an American company and they thrive off greed, I think it's possible that these dummies might price this console at $500. But we'll see. But in any case, the next generation, they absolutely will not win the next generation because they just not going to be able to get people to let go of their PlayStations. So let's get ready to get on to the next subject. See here. Do something real quick here. Actually, I need to check something real quick because I want to see if the see if the comment section is open. Do something real quick here. Give me 1 second, people. Okay, just want to double check, make sure I got the chat open. So whenever you get around to watching this, feel free to leave your comments, whatever. So let's get on to the next subject that I want to talk about, and that is the PlayStation VR. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video saying that I thought Microsoft and Sony should have sales, to take advantage of this time of year, the tax time, when people get the tax refunds. And to me, that's when people who get those that's when they do the most spending. Bottom line. If I get $1,800, $2,000 back from taxes, that's when I'm more likely going to spend that kind of money, because I'm not spending that kind of money out of my own pocket. So I thought this would be the perfect time for Microsoft and Sony to have a sale and try to take advantage of people having money in their pocket, because it's not going to be there in a couple of months. So PlayStation must have heard me, because right now the PlayStation VR is on sale, starting at $200. And I think this sale is going to go on until March 3rd. And at that price, if you're curious about the PlayStation VR, I think, now's the time to grab one of those things. If you still got some money from your taxes, whatever, and this $200, I think that's a pretty good deal. I bought the PlayStation VR day one for my son, and I paid $500 for it. The first time I put that headset on, I felt like it wasn't worth the $500, but then after I started digging and doing research into this VR thing, it turns out that out of the big three, PlayStation was the cheapest, between them and the Oculus and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth $200. So I would encourage you to grab one of those for $200. And VR is growing. This not going anywhere soon because Sony, is giving full support to this VR. It's not going to be like a Vita where they're gonna forget about it. They are putting out games for this. There's a lot of games out there, now sure a lot of them are like little rinky-dink games, but there are some AAA experiences out there. I did like the Batman Arkham for the VR. Resident Evil was cool, but damn, that shit was scary. I'm not gonna lie, it shook me up a couple of times. Farpoint, I really loved that game. Star Trek Bridge Crew, I really like that game too. And then there was the Star Wars Battlefront experience. Even though I don't like EA, that was pretty cool too to see a Star Destroyer in its actual size. Man, that ship was huge. That was pretty cool. So I do like the VR. And then there are some games coming up that if you're in the first person shooters, I think you got to keep your eyes open for these games that's coming up. Right now there's a game called Honor and Duty out. It's kind of a little rinky-dink, first person shooter game, but it is 5 versus 5 first person shooter. But I think it's only like $6-7. So as far as graphics goes, you're kind of getting what you pay for. But it's cool. There's also Drunken Bar Fight. The controls was a little bit wonky. They did an update to try to improve the controls, but that game is a lot of fun too. I like cracking people over the head with a gumball machine, with a guitar, a deer rack. It was pretty fun. So I'll do another live stream sooner or later on that and throw some more commentary or something like that into it. But as far as games to look out for, like these first person shooter games, the first one coming up is Bravo Team, which I believe is coming out March 6th. This game was supposed to come out, this past December, but it got pushed back to March. And I pray to God it doesn't get pushed back again, because this is one of the games I'm really, really looking forward to. It's a single player and it's co-op, and the graphics look pretty good. There's also like 3 other games coming up for the VR first person shooter that support the aim controller, so it feels like you got the real gun in your hand. I really like that too. There's a game called Firewatch coming up, and to me that that almost looks like a Rainbow Six in VR. Excuse me. There's also another game called Special Forces VR coming up, and that also looks like a Rainbow Six type game for the VR. And then another game that I'm looking forward to, it's called Alvo. And I guess that one was best described as like Counter-Strike for the VR. So those 4 games: Bravo Team, Special Forces VR, Firewatch, and what did I say? Bravo, Alvo, Special Teams, and Firewatch. So yeah, those are the 4 games that I'm really, really, really looking forward to these games. And I mean, if these games are half as good as I hope they are, games like Battlefield and shit like that, I ain't gonna give 2 shits about them anymore. They can go to hell with their microtransactions and shit. So that's so yeah. So again, if you thinking about getting into VR and you got a couple $100 extra on you, I would say get it. So, the next subject I wanted to talk about was, and I found this out yesterday, that State of Decay 2 uh, had a pre-release price drop in the UK, and I guess it's like £24.99 or something like that in the UK. And then they basically believe that price cut is going to make its way over here too. And so I guess that's got some people concerned that, okay, if you're cutting the price of the game, what does that mean about the game itself? And myself, I believe that there's a reason for it. First of all, I never believed that this game was worth $60 to begin with, because to me it looked like some indie shit, and that was another one of the games that just blew me away about the when at E3 at last year's E3, when they unveiled the Xbox One X, and they were talking about this true 4K 60 frames uncompromised, all this shit. When they ran their mouths about that, other than Forza, they displayed Cuphead, Super Lucky's Tales, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, and the aforementioned State of Decay 2 as reasons why you should buy an Xbox One X. These are supposed to be games that you want to show off to your friends when you show them the power of the X. And out of all those games that I just mentioned, Forza 7 graphically is probably the only game that can show off the power of the X. But I'm not really that big into the game because it feels a little bit arcadey compared to Gran Turismo Sport. So getting back to this price drop, I believe there's a reason for it. I think it comes down to one or two reasons why they might be dropping the price of State of Decay 2. One of the reasons why I believe they could be possibly doing it is it could be because the game is trash. That they could, if the game turns out to be trash, they could face a lot of outrage charging $60 for this game, and it turns out to be garbage. And I think the other possible reasons why they might be lowering the price of this game, and it might be reaching saying this, but I think it's possible that by lowering the game, like let's say when that price drops makes its way over here to North America, let's say they charge $30 for the game or something like that, which in my opinion that might be about all it's worth from what I've seen. We've only seen that one trailer, and that's it. We have not really seen any gameplay or anything like that, so I wouldn't pay more than $30 for that game. So let's say they sell the game for $30 here in America. I think one of the reasons why they might sell a game at $30 here in America is because they might want some sales numbers to brag about, because they get their ass kicked every month on these sales charts. It's like when I go to VG charts and I check the numbers, the hardware numbers and the software numbers and shit like that. The top 10 games that they have listed, for weekly software sales, the PlayStation usually has about 4 or 5 games in the top 10, and then the Nintendo Switch usually has 2 or 3, and the Xbox One only has 1 or 2 games in the top 10 as far as weekly sales, software sales. So I think that could be another possible reasons why they might be knocking the price down, is so they can have some sales numbers to brag about, which I really don't know. But Microsoft is a tough company to figure out, so who knows what's going on through their head. The only thing I know about Microsoft is they about trying to make money, and they obsessed with trying to beat Sony. So with that being said, them knocking the price down to $30 to try to boost up sales numbers and shit like that, it's not too. It might be reaching, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's reaching. I think that is a big possibility, but first thing that hits my head is why they pricing this game the way they did over in the UK is probably because the game is trash. Or, or this price cut might only affect the UK itself, and they maybe they want to boost sales over there, because definitely over in the UK, the PS4 outsells the Xbox like 2 to 1, even 3 to 1, depending on when you check the sales charts. So I think that's a possibility there too. And so the final subject that I want to touch on would be Crackdown 3. When Crackdown 3 got delayed, they said it would, it got delayed until spring of 2018. Well, technically speaking, spring is next month. March 21st or something like that. First day of spring. And spring usually goes from March, April, May, June. So that's about a 4-month window. You would think that we would have had a date by now, that we would have gotten a release date for Crackdown 3. I mean, it took forever for us to get a release date for God of War, but we finally got the release date. We have a release date for MLB The Show, which I believe is March 30th, but that's a yearly game, and they always release that game right before the start of the MLB season. So I'll exclude that. But yeah, like God of War was one of the games that people were screaming about a release date, and we finally have a release date. And we've seen about 4 trailers for God of War. So I'd say the game is ready to go. But Crackdown 3, on the other hand, here it is. Spring's right around the corner, and we still don't have a release date yet. We still don't have any kind of additional footage for the game. And to me, that is a huge red flag. Again, this is because of that so-called destructible environment on the multiplayer aspect of the game. That's supposed to be one of the things that was supposed to show off the power of the X and the power of the cloud. So, Crackdown 3 was one of the biggest games that they were shooting their mouths off about at E3. So I would like to think that if this game is ready to go, we would have gotten a date by now. We would have gotten we would have gotten some more some more trailers, but we haven't gotten any of that. So, springs are right around the corner, and Microsoft has to be careful about when they're going to release this game, because there's still some other PlayStation exclusives out there that I don't think they want to bump heads with, like the Spider-Man game or something like that. So I would like to think that, they should have given us a better window by now when this game's going to release. But we haven't gotten anything from that. I didn't want to go right out and say it, but I don't think the game is ready yet. I wouldn't be surprised if the game is completely broken and they still working feverishly to try to fix it. I just don't think the game is ready to go yet. We haven't heard anything yet. And so, like I said, they said spring 2018. And myself, I don't think the game is ready to go yet, but I don't think they want to announce that the game is going to be delayed again, because by that time people just ain't going to have interest in the game, and they be like, what, I ain't even going to deal with this game. Too many delays. There must be too many problems with this game. So I think the game is not ready to go. But I think Microsoft will not announce another delay, because that would pretty much kill the hype of the game. This is a game they've been working on for about 4 years. So to announce another delay, people will be like, whatever, I'm not even gonna bother with that game. So I think Microsoft knows that I think the game is still broken, and they just simply not gonna announce that the game needs more time, because that's, that would pretty much kill the hype. So that's where I stand on that. But, time will tell. I'd probably say give it till July. If we have not heard anything about Crackdown by July, something is really wrong with that game, to the point where I even dare say that they might end up canceling it. But although I think that's not likely, because I think they came this far with the game, they've sunk too much money into it to cancel it. So I think ultimately what's probably going to end up happening is they're probably going to reach a point where they have to release it, whether it's broken or not, to try to get some of that money back. And they'll probably pull some of that Konami shit. Not Konami shit, but they'll probably pull some shit where they won't give out any review copies. They won't let anybody see anything until they just ready to release it. So, but like I said, so shoot for July. If you don't hear anything by July, then that's a huge red flag. Then something is really, really, really going on with this game. So, I think that's going to do it for me. I got to get ready to go to work here in a little while. But, whenever you get around to checking out this stream, thanks for checking it out. Leave your comments if you want to touch on, if you want to give your input on any of these subjects that I covered. And I think, like I said, moving forward, I think I'm going to shoot for trying to do a live stream every Sunday evening at 8 o'clock and do a weekly wrap up with all the past news. Because like I said, sometimes it's just not enough hours in the day to, to edit and create a full blown video. But, but again, give it a like, give this live stream a like. This is my first time, going into these waters, doing my, first podcast. Give it a like, hit the bell icon, to stay up to date whenever I put out content. And, I don't know if we get some more breaking news or something like that, maybe I'll do another live stream throughout this week sometime. But as of right now, shoot for next Sunday. So anyway, this is your boy Lincoln Clay. You ready to sign off? I'll holler at y'all later. Shout out to King Thrash. Shout out to Xbox Video for helping me out and getting me rolling and getting this helping me getting this live stream going. Shout out to the round table. Shout out to my other favorite YouTubers. Ryan the Professional, Klay670, Fat Gamer. I ain't heard from him in a while, but Hard 8, I don't know what's going on with him. I ain't heard from him in a while. Just to name a few, there's a lot of YouTubers that I watch. So anyway, thanks for checking out this stream, and I will holler at y'all later.